In August 1945, the world witnessed a moment that would forever change human history. It was not just the end of a brutal global conflict, it was the beginning of something far more terrifying: the nuclear age. In a matter of seconds, humanity crossed a line from which there would be no return. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki became the only places on Earth where atomic weapons have ever been used in war. What happened there was not simply a military operation. It was a human tragedy so profound that its echoes can still be felt across generations. By that time, World War II had already become the deadliest conflict in human history. It began in 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland, and within a few short years, it spread like wildfire across Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Entire nations burned. Millions of families were torn apart. By 1945, much of the world lay in ruins. Cities had been reduced to rubble. Soldiers and civilians alike had endured unimaginable suffering. Nazi Germany had surrendered in May 1945, bringing relief to Europe. But in the Pacific, the war between Japan and the United States continued with relentless brutality. The battles were fierce beyond description. At Iwo Jima and Okinawa, thousands of young men lost their lives in desperate close combat. Japanese forces often fought to the last breath. Surrender was rare. Every island captured came at a terrible cost. American military planners feared that invading Japan's main islands would lead to catastrophic casualties. They estimated that hundreds of thousands of American soldiers could die, and possibly millions of Japanese civilians. The war seemed endless. Exhaustion and grief had become normal. At the same time, in complete secrecy, a scientific effort unlike any other was unfolding in the United States. It was called the Manhattan Project. Beginning in 1942, it gathered some of the brightest scientific minds in the world. Their mission was extraordinary: to unlock the power of the atom and turn it into a weapon. For years, thousands of scientists, engineers, and workers labored in silence, not fully aware of the final purpose of their work. They were racing against time, fearing that Nazi Germany might develop such a weapon first. After intense research and experimentation, the first atomic bomb was successfully tested on July 16, 1945, in the New Mexico desert. The test was called Trinity. When the bomb exploded, the desert sky lit up with a blinding flash. A massive mushroom cloud rose high into the atmosphere. Witnesses described it as both beautiful and horrifying. In that moment, humanity realized it had created something capable of destroying entire cities in seconds. Physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer later remembered thinking of a line from ancient scripture: "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Those words would haunt history. The weapon had worked. Now came the most difficult decision: whether to use it. President Harry S. Truman and his advisors believed that deploying the bomb might force Japan to surrender quickly and avoid a bloody invasion. After issuing the Potsdam Declaration demanding Japan's surrender and receiving no acceptance, the decision was made. Hiroshima was chosen as a target because it was a significant military and industrial center and had not yet been heavily bombed. On the morning of August 6, 1945, Hiroshima awoke beneath clear blue skies. It was an ordinary summer morning. Children were walking to school, laughing, and unaware of what was coming. Mothers prepared breakfast, workers headed to factories. Streetcars moved quietly along their tracks. life continued as it always had. At 8:15 a.m., everything changed. An American B-29 bomber named Enola Gay released a uranium-based atomic bomb called Little Boy. 43 seconds later, it detonated approximately 600 meters above the city. There was a flash, brighter than the sun. For a brief moment, shadows were all that remained of human beings standing on streets and bridges. Temperatures at the center of the explosion reached several million degrees Celsius. A massive shock wave tore through the city, flattening buildings as if they were made of paper. Homes vanished. Schools disappeared. Concrete cracked. Fire erupted everywhere. Within a radius of about 1.6 kilometers, nearly everything was destroyed. An estimated 70,000 to 80,000 people died instantly. Many never even understood what had happened. Thousands were children. Thousands were elderly. They were not soldiers on a battlefield. They were families living ordinary lives. Fires spread rapidly, merging into a terrifying firestorm. Survivors stumbled through the ruins in silence. Some had skin hanging from their arms. Others were burned so severely they could barely walk. Many searched desperately for loved ones, calling out names into a city that no longer existed. The rivers filled with bodies as injured people jumped into the water to escape the flames. Hospitals had been destroyed. Doctors and nurses were killed. Those who remained struggled to help the wounded with almost no supplies. The cries of pain echoed through the shattered streets. By the end of 1945, the death toll in Hiroshima reached approximately 140,000. Many died slowly from burns, injuries, and radiation sickness, an invisible enemy that attacked from within. And yet, despite this devastation, Japan did not immediately surrender. 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, another B-29 bomber carried a second atomic bomb. This one, a plutonium weapon known as Fat Man, was initially intended for the city of Kokura. But heavy cloud cover forced a change of course. The new target became Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m., the second bomb exploded. Again, there was a flash. Again, there was destruction beyond imagination. Although Nagasaki's hills limited the spread of the blast, the impact was catastrophic. Approximately 40,000 people died instantly. By the end of 1945, around 70,000 had lost their lives. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Churches, factories, and homes were reduced to rubble. Survivors suffered severe burns and radiation exposure. Many experienced nausea, hair loss, bleeding, and infections. Symptoms doctors barely understood at the time. Families were torn apart in seconds. 2 cities, 2 bombs. Over 200,000 lives lost by the end of that year. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito spoke to the Japanese people by radio. For many, it was the first time they had ever heard his voice. In calm but solemn words, he announced Japan's surrender. The war was over. World War II officially ended on September 2, 1945, when surrender documents were signed aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. After 6 years of unimaginable destruction and an estimated 70 to 85 million deaths worldwide, the deadliest conflict in history had finally come to an end. But a new fear had been born. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki marked the first and only use of nuclear weapons in warfare. They introduced humanity to a power capable of destroying civilization itself. In the years that followed, survivors, known as hibakusha, carried deep physical and emotional scars. Many developed cancers linked to radiation exposure. Some children were born with medical complications. Survivors often face discrimination due to misunderstandings and fear. Their suffering did not end in 1945. It continued for decades. The world also changed politically. In 1949, the Soviet Union tested its own atomic bomb. A nuclear arms race began. Soon, hydrogen bombs were developed, weapons far more powerful than those dropped on Japan. During the Cold War, humanity lived under the constant shadow of possible annihilation. Even today, thousands of nuclear weapons still exist around the world. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are now rebuilt cities filled with life, light, and hope. Peace memorials stand where destruction once ruled. Every year, people gather in silence to remember the victims. The names of the lost are read aloud, so they are never forgotten. The atomic bombings were not just military events recorded in history books. They were human stories of mothers searching for children, of survivors walking through fire, of cities turned to ash in seconds. They remind us that scientific achievement without wisdom can lead to unimaginable consequences. The most destructive weapons ever used in history ended a world war, but they also created a new and lasting fear. The question humanity must ask is not only how the war ended, but whether we have learned from it. Because in the summer of 1945, the world saw the true power of nuclear war, and nothing, absolutely nothing, has ever been the same since. If you like our videos, subscribe our channel and press the like button.